Hello students, welcome to Notebook. Do you know why the Indus Valley civilization is also called the Harappan civilization? It is because the first archaeological site of the Indus Valley civilization to be excavated was Harappa in the years 1920 to 1921. The Harappan civilization is broadly classified into three historical periods: the early Harappan, the mature Harappan, and the late Harappan periods. The early Harappan culture was associated with pottery and crafts, agriculture, and a pastoral lifestyle. Settlements were usually not very large. From the burning and abandonment of the vast expanses of area, it is evident that there was a clear distinction between the early and mature Harappan civilizations. Nonetheless, it is also true that some of the sites of early Harappan culture also experienced the mature Harappan phase. These cultures shared agricultural strategies and other forms of subsistence. Archaeobotanists who specialize in plant remains have been able to reconstruct the dietary practices of the Harappans. Grains consumed by the Harappans include wheat, barley, chickpea, sesame, and lentil. Archaeozoologists who study the remains of animals have suggested that cows, sheep, pigs, buffaloes, and goats were domesticated. Bones of fish, fowl, deer, gharials, and boars have been found as well. Though we are aware of the kind of grains that were cultivated, it was somewhat arduous to reconstruct the actual agricultural practices. Representations of the bull on terracotta sculpture and seals, as well as models of the plough, suggest that ploughing was a common practice as early as the Harappan period. A vast number of the Harappan sites are situated in arid regions. Remnants of canals have been found in the site of Shotughai in Afghanistan. Ancient means of irrigation may have also included water-drawn wells and reservoirs. One of the most distinct features of the Indus Valley civilization is perhaps its urban planning. The urban center of Mohenjo-daro is an example of superior urban design. This settlement was divided into two sections: a smaller citadel constructed on higher ground and a larger construction of a lower town. Both these structures of Mohenjo-daro were walled and segregated from each other. The bricks used to make these settlements were either baked or sun-dried and of a standardized ratio. One of the other most unique features of this civilization was its meticulously planned drainage system. The roads and streets with drains were constructed first in a grid pattern. The houses were later built along them to give each house access to the street as well as an effective drainage system. Several residential buildings have been found in the lower town of Mohenjo-daro. Several houses were structured around a courtyard. The courtyard was actually used for cooking and weaving and other similar activities. A need for privacy ensured that no windows were constructed along the ground floors. The main entrance did not allow a direct view of the inner sanctuary of the courtyard either. Every house had a bathroom with drains connected to the street sewers. Each house usually had a well too, which could be accessed by passers-by from the outside. Scholars suggest that the Mohenjo-daro has as many as 700 wells in the settlement. Structures in the citadel were probably used for public services. These include a warehouse and a great bath. The great bath consisted of a large rectangular tank in a courtyard surrounded by corridors on all sides. There were rooms on three sides. One of the rooms contained an enormous well. The tank was watertight. This was ensured by setting bricks and using the mortar of gypsum. water from the tank flowed into a huge drain. Across the lane, a smaller structure contained 8 bathrooms, 4 along each side of a corridor. The distinctive nature of the Great Bath has led scholars to believe that it was used for a special kind of a ritual bath. To trace social and economic differences, burials are often studied. However, the Harappan burial practices have not given us any insight regarding the differences in social class. The dead were usually laid in pits. Some pits were lined with bricks. Others contained pottery and jewellery, aligned with the belief that these could be used beyond the realm of life. Jewellery has been found in the graves of both men and women. Some pits also contained copper mirrors. However, in general, the Harappans did not bury precious materials with the dead. Archaeologists often classify objects as either utilitarian or as luxuries. Utilitarian objects include those of daily use, made with common materials such as clay or stone. These are found scattered more or less evenly throughout settlements. Luxurious objects, on the other hand, are made from rare and precious or semi-precious materials, which were not found locally. Sometimes everyday objects like spindle, whorls are found to be made of precious materials like fence. This problematizes the classification of objects. Miniature pots and bottles made by fans, perhaps perfume bottles, were found mostly in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Gold was possibly considered rare by the Harappans too. Chanhu-daro was a small settlement in the Indus Valley civilization dedicated to the production of crafts including beads, shells, seals, metals and weights. Stones like carnelian, jasper, quartz, steatite and crystal were used. Different shaped segments were painted or had incisions or designs etched onto them. The red color of carnelian was acquired by firing yellow raw materials. However, how the steatite microbeads were created remains a mystery to modern archaeologists. Several special drills were unearthed and Chanhu-daro, Dholavira and Lothal. To identify hubs of craft centers, archaeologists look for stones, copper ore, shells, tools, raw and waste materials. Sometimes larger waste pieces were used to make smaller objects. Settlements close to the coast like Balakot and Nageshwar were centers of craft production. Shell objects like bangles, ladles and inlay were produced here and traded in other settlements. It also believed that products from Chanhu-daro and Lothal were traded in large settlements like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. While materials like clay were locally available, stones, wood and metals often had to be obtained from beyond the alluvial region. It is likely that riverine routes and coastal routes were used. It is believed that the lapis lazuli was procured from Afghanistan and carnelian from Bharuch in Gujarat. Steatite and copper were obtained from Rajasthan and gold from South India. Expeditions to different areas like Khetri and South India enabled them to procure the materials, and this established communication with other cultures. Harappan artifacts found in different areas support this fact. Oman is located in the southeastern tip of the Arabian Peninsula. Omani copper and Harappan artifacts have residues of nickel, which suggest a common source. A particular kind of Harappan jar has been found in Oman. It is assumed that the contents of this jar was traded for Omani copper. Mesopotamian texts refer to a region called Magan, from where copper was procured. Magan was possibly a name for Oman, as Mesopotamian sites also have traces of nickel. Harappan beads, seals and weights have also been found in distant lands. Mesopotamian texts mention the regions of Magan, Dilmun, and Meluha, which is believed to be Harappa. A variety of goods such as lapis lazuli, copper, and gold were said to have been obtained from Meluha. Mesopotamian texts indicate that Meluha was a land of seafarers. Depiction of boats and ships on Harappan seals suggests that Harappa's established contact with present-day Bahrain, Oman, and Mesopotamia by sea. The story of the Harappan or Indus Valley civilization does not end here. The Harappan script, seal, structure of authority will be discussed in the next part of the video lesson. We will also discuss that how the civilization came to an end and its subsequent discovery in the early 20th century. See you soon. Till then, keep learning.